on air.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call the August 9th, 2016 meeting of the Alexander County Board of Education to order. And I would like to recognize Board Member Marty Pennell for our invocation.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, just to thank you for loving us. Lord, we just thank you for blessing this county, this school system. Lord, just pray that you place your hand of protection and guidance on this board. Lord, pray that we'll do your will. Lord, we just pray that you'll have your hand on the kids as they come back to school very shortly. And Lord, just guide and direct them and help us to have a good, safe, and learning school year coming up, Lord. Lord, be with the staff and the faculty. Lord, give them patience. And Lord, just pray that you lay your hand upon them. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you. And Board Member David Odom, recognize him for our pledge.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Okay, board members, you've had a chance to look over the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, additions? All right, all those in favor of approval of the agenda as presented, please say aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? No. All right, there's no one signed up for public comment, so we will moving right along here to the consent agenda. Board members, you've had your packets and looked over the things that were on our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve those items as presented?
Move to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion also carries unanimously. And I believe we're down to reports. And I would like to recognize Angie Charles, the coordinator of the Student Success Center, for an update. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good, thank you.
First, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to come back to the district. I have been here several years ago and then went to another district and came back. And this has been my home and my family's home for 20 years. So love the opportunity to be able to raise my sons in an environment that is family, that's very similar to the environment I grew up in. So thank you for that. And thank you for welcoming me. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Student Success Center. And one of the things that I wanted to say about the Student Success Center mostly is that educating students happens from the heart. That's the first place that you start, and then it comes out, and it's all about relationships. It's all about what you build with those students and what you can do for those students in that year that you have them, or in that multiple years that you might have a chance to have them. I have a short video clip that I wanted you to see, just to give you a little idea of why alternative education is kind of a new thing and a way that we're looking at things. It's been around for a long time, but it also impacts so many students in so many different ways.
It was like I never thought that anybody would care about me like a family would, and it's like, no, this random woman cares about me like my own mom.
I felt like nobody around me cared, so I really didn't care.
During my school career, I never had someone who simplified the whole process.
And I couldn't focus. I couldn't go to school because I felt no one there understood.
Before I got locked up, everything was going amazing.
Being frustrated, I started skipping school.
But so you were taking the initiative to really try to help me learn the way that I learned.
I was always getting suspended. I felt like I was getting picked on by teachers.
but she was like, you gonna do great things. And she meant it.
In life, all you need is a person to be willing to understand you, to listen, to give an ear and arm, to help you out.
Someone that's always there to help them when times are rough and to show them that this is the right way to do it.
And let that one person know about, their life and what's going on, because you go to school and act like everything is all good, but you don't know about their life.
Are you okay? Is all they could have asked me. And things could have been a lot different.
They don't need a teacher to be like, oh, he's a bad kid, pointing the finger at him. They need, oh, you can change, They need somebody to uplift them.
I walk in this morning, she like, how you going with your classes? How many more quizzes you got to do? How many of this? How many of that? You need help with this? I got somebody to help you with that.
Miss Alvarez is one teacher I feel connected with. She's my advisor, and she really helps me stay on the ball.
My parents had always said, like, you're going to be the first ones to graduate.
Having adults and who weren't family and who still believed in me, that is why I am who I am today.
I knew I was capable of doing something better than I was.
I have a chance to pull myself up.
I want to graduate. I want to be something in life.
Student Success Center, we're kind of going through the process of rebranding and looking at this in as much of a positive way as possible for the students, for the community, for everyone. And we've decided and looked at it as that we just basically believe with all our heart that if we have a respectful and caring environment and a well-trained staff, that we're going to be able to make a difference. We're going to be able to change what might be the outcome for students that might be very negative. And when you look at the statistics and you look at the research, the outcomes for these students often can be extremely negative. They might end up incarcerated. They might end up in all kinds of different lights in society. And looking at viable members of Alexander County and knowing that I have a vested interest in what happens to the future of the county and what happens to the future of the students, when you see them and you can capture, even if you can just capture one, it makes all the difference in the world, because people are not watching them deteriorate in society, or that's not part of society being a deterioration. The purpose for alternative, and I'm not going to read all this to you, I'm just going to tell you it's within your stuff that you're going to have, but the purpose of alternative learning really started with that seed of being able to take students who are troubled, having a hard time, getting in trouble at school all the time, and being able to partner with the schools and high schools, even in some settings, elementary schools. But here I want to partner with the high schools and the middle schools. That's where I want to be. I want to be able to partner with them, and I want to be able to say, hey, if you have a student, and not just put the barriers on it to say that students who are struggling, having a hard time getting in trouble in school, that's not the only students we want. We want those students who have levels of anxiety and they can't handle those large settings, and they need that place where they can come and actually have that solid experience where they can finish high school, they can graduate, which is the ultimate goal for every child that we have in Alexander County. We want them to graduate from high school. We want them to have a different kind of future. We want their children to have a different kind of future. And if we make that happen, it goes down the line. It takes all of this into consideration. So I'm not going to read it all to you, but it'll be there for you to be able to look at and see. I don't know how far I have to be. Here we go. This next slide is just talking about rationale for alternative schools, and it comes down just with general statutes, and general statutes just okay. General statutes just basically came out and said that we all have the right and the opportunity to have a safe and orderly environment to go to school. So sometimes students, for whatever reason, might need to be removed from that and put into a smaller setting so that it can be safe and orderly, and they can come to a place where they can transition back into their home school. So I'll let you read that too, because that's long and lengthy and you don't need to hear all that from me. The next slide is talking about our mission and vision, and I really want to take a minute to focus on this, because the mission is our success team will strive to restore, provide choice, and execute change in the lives of all students. We will provide them with the tools and skills needed to graduate and succeed in life. Just because you graduate doesn't mean you succeed in life, but it does mean that if you don't, most of the prison population is made up of people who did not. So when you see that and you look at the statistics, it's pretty alarming. In the vision, we looked at the Student Success Center will provide a safe and positive learning environment that serves and supports all students by addressing the individual social, emotional, and learning needs. Students will be provided with education that's aligned to state standards and given close individualized support to provide them with the tools necessary to be prepared to transition back into the regular school, college, military, or the workforce, wherever it ends up being. And one of the things that I really wanted to point out with the mission is to make sure that we know that we're restoring, because what we want to do as an alternative setting is restore them back, restore every piece of what they may be missing in here. It might be family issues, it might be just poverty, it might be all kinds of things that's missing inside. And when those pieces are broken, it's hard to succeed in an environment where everything is about the social, aspect and their friends and everything. So when they get those pieces back together, that restoration is one of the most important parts of what we want to do. Our beliefs. I'm not going to read them all to you. They're here for you to see. But one of the things that I really wanted to focus on is these last two. Our school will embrace diversity and promote equity, and we believe all students and staff are entitled to and responsible for a safe and nurturing learning environment. And that's one of the things that we want. Sometimes students come to school and they don't fit that regular mold, so they often don't feel like they have a place. If they feel like they have a family away from a family that may be dysfunctional or whatever's going on in the situation, if they feel like they have a place to go, that is often the only thing that they need. And that can get them over the edge. That's not the answer for all students, but it's the answer for many students. The last belief that I really, all of them are important to us, but these last two, our school will collaborate with families and the schools in the district in order to educate the whole child socially, emotionally, cognitively, and physically. We want to be part of the partnership with Alexander Central, and I need to start by saying now that Alexander Central has been awesome to partner with us already. I could not have asked for a better situation with Doug Roney, with the AP sitting back here, although I hate to lose him as a behavior specialist if that happens. Just knowing that staff of people and that community of people is there for us, and we are trying also to be there for them. And the middle schools, I want to make sure that they're in and they're part of that partnership with us as well. Some students or people that would be served as a support in the alternative setting would be students that have chronic misbehaviors, long-term suspensions, and we're also going to add the piece of short-term suspensions in there as well. It's an alternative to that exclusionary suspension process. Attendance issues or concerns, achievement issues in the traditional school setting, mid-year alternative transfers from other districts, and that happens quite often, recovery credit concerns, short-term suspensions, like I just said, and then students with mental health issues or juvenile and adult criminal issues. So there's all kinds of things. That's not necessarily everything. There might be other things that would fall under the umbrella too that we would look at serving and would like to have the opportunity to serve. Okay, and we have looked at rebranding and kind of looking at the whole process of what the school is going to mean, how we're going to do it, how we're going to fit in to help the community, the district, everybody as a whole. So we looked at it, and we looked at it as, of course, it's going to be called the Student Success Center. So we looked at the 3 C's: choice, chance, and change. We all have a choice. If given a chance, we can make a change. And those are some of the things that we're looking at, and that's going to be something that's sort of plastered everywhere for them to see. Because often if they see the positive, it'll make a difference in what's going to happen. Some goals that we have is, of course, focused behavior plans and goals, positive impact on the graduation rate. That's like one of the #1 focuses that we have. Blended learning approach, provide assistance to middle schools and high schools, support the needs of all learners that come in and out of the building. And then we're also looking at the district strategic goals and how we fit into those district strategic goals. This was our tiered system, behavior system that we are in the process of doing all kinds of analyzing with. And it's basically the word choice, commitment, honesty, opportunity, integrity, cooperation, and encouragement. And these are the things that we are looking for the students in this school every day. These are the things that we really want them to focus on. They can focus on the academic piece, but all of these things needs to be in place and on a consistent basis as we go through. The benefits to the Student Success Center will be smaller class setting for some students, especially students who have anxiety issues and things like that. That just seems to cause them to be able to find their place and find their way. Alternative to suspension support to the middle schools and high school, short and long-term suspensions, in-house student support with CIS worker and counselor, decreased dropout rate, improved relationships with students and staff, credit recovery, and just individualized settings and structure. And this, I'm not going to read to you. That'll be this is just the process. How you enter an alternative setting, what happens as you go through the rounds and the process of the alternative setting, and at what point are you ready to transition back to the regular school, high school or middle school. So in a nutshell, that is us. And that is who we're going to be and who we're working really hard to be. But again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to let me be able to do that. A lot of my career has been dealing with alternative students or at-risk students, and it is a passion of mine to be able to see them succeed and to be able to see them get to a place that maybe no one in their family has ever gotten to. So thank you for that.
Question? Thank you. I'd just like to say I like the name. I think it gives students an idea of success just from the start.
I do too. Thank you.
That was part of rebranding the program.
Mm-hmm.
An alternative learning program has somewhat of a negative connotation already,
Yes.
just in its name. And that was one of the first things we talked about as far as maybe making it look a little different to our community as well as parents and students.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I will say I first came here in 1994, and it applied for a job at Alexander County Schools under Robert Austin.
Uh-huh.
And the job was to run a grant to start an alternative learning program. And that's what I did. And we met for 3 hours in the afternoon in the media center at the high school.
Right.
I think if I recall correctly, we had 7 students during the course of a year. And the only reason I got the job, and Robert Austin will tell you this, is because he asked me what I saw as a success rate. I'm not an educator. I'm an attorney. I said, well, if we can just save one, it's worth it. And he said, that was why you got the job.
That's it.
So I don't know that we were very successful back in 1994 and 1995, but I've seen the program, which is near and dear to my heart, grow a lot. And this piece of it in your presentation just makes me very proud that I was a very tiny part in trying to reach students that don't fit the traditional mold. I fit the traditional mold.
Right. I did too.
School was my favorite place to be, but for those that it's not, for whatever reason, this is a chance. And so I'm very, very pleased that you're here and very grateful that this program is moving forward for those students in our community that need just as much as the rest of us do.
Thank you. It's personal to me in some ways too, because I have a son that is not quite as easily, one fits into the mold quite easily, and the other one is very shy. So he finds his place in different ways. And so it's pretty personal to me, not that he would, misbehave or have bad behaviors, but it touches my heart to see and know that there's going to be a place where there are going to be able to be a safe haven for students who might not do that. I fit into the mold too. I'm with you. I fit in there, and I was fine, and I'm still going to college. So school's always been a passion for me, but some students struggle. And as they struggle, they can't find their peace in the place that it needs to be. And I'd like to be that peaceful spot. And I thank you guys for giving us a little spot in Alexander County to be able to make that happen. And that happened long before I got here, but I thank you for that. And I thank you for seeing these kids as human beings and seeing them as a chance to make a difference. And they might be actually students who might sit on this board someday, or who might make a change in the county that might be just amazing.
It
So
would be. Thank you.
Thank
We look
you.
for great
Thank you.
things this year.
thank you.
Ms. Macy Jones, get an update on the Alexander County Head Start program. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Okay. I'm here to give an update on Alexander County Head Start. And if Teresa, if you will help me forward the slides, please. First of all, Head Start has a funded enrollment, again, of 100 children, and we have 25 staff. Our budget is right at $980,000, and that does include an increase of about $17,034 for a cost of living adjustment. We're still waiting on the financial award to come in, but that's in process. We're in process of receiving that. We also operate the NC Pre-K classrooms, and we have a funded enrollment of 45 children, 8 staff, and the budget for that is $292,500. Few facts on Head Start. We have a funded enrollment, and as of today, we have 90 of those 100 slots filled. We have some pending applications that are just missing a few pieces of paperwork, but we expect to be at our funded enrollment by the time school begins in a couple of weeks. We have family advocates that are working on enrolling the children. They're using a new system called Child Plus, does lots of tracking and aggregates data for us, and we've had some training on that. And our data manager is really enjoying this process. Bus routes are being finalized. We're encouraging more families to transport children because our buses are aging, and we also have difficulty sometimes just getting in and out of some of the driveways. And people want us to fix their driveways after we come in and out so many times over their gravel. And we're just trying to move away from transporting so many children, asking parents to drop off their children as they're dropping off siblings. So that's one of our goals. With NC Pre-K, we have 45 of 45 slots filled. So that's great. We've come a long way, because in previous years, we were still trying to find maybe 3 or 4 children within 2
years ago, we were looking for more than that at this
Yes. And so now we have a wait list. We've already started that. So this is a good thing. And family advocates and our nurse work today and will work tomorrow with the Partnership for Children on completing application packets, enrollments, making sure that children are up to date on immunizations and are getting ready for their physicals. I want to talk to you about a few successes that we had in 2015, 2016 that came near the end of the year. We were fortunate to be a part of a 20-hour intensive training course called Making the Most of Classroom Interactions. And Rhonda Hamby is an educator for the Partnership for Children. She took the entire staff through this training that focused on intentional interactions with young children, not just being there to play, but everything that they do needs to have a meaning that we can connect to some kind of an outcome. And they went through this training, and the significance of it is that Rhonda is one of 7 people trained in the state of North Carolina. So Head Start is one of the first cohorts in the state, maybe the first, we're still researching that, to actually go through this training. When I was on the phone with our federal program specialist in Atlanta, she had never even heard of the training. And she was very interested in telling other Head Starts across the state and across the nation about this training. So we're proud of that accomplishment. Now, that training was a part of a grant that was granted to the Partnership for Children, and in the amount of about $3,600. Another success was we were able to apply for a grant from the Child Care Resources Foundation in Durham for professional development. That meant that we exceeded some of the expectations for state and federal licensing. All of our staff have professional development plans in place, and then we have to check off what they've completed from those professional development plans. This grant opportunity was only given to 4- and 5-star centers, and we are 5-star centers. Because of that grant, we were able to receive $3,500 of unrestricted money that we could use for our program. As part of that, I had to attend 3 classes, a total 24 hours. And so over the course of last year, I took those three classes, one-day classes. The final success that I want to highlight was on April the 25th. We completed the Care for Kids Day. We did developmental screenings and health screenings, and this was available to all children birth to 5 years old in the county and for pregnant women. We had several partners in the community to help with this fun day, and 35 children registered. That may not seem like a lot, but it is a lot for the first time. We were just getting this started again after, I think, several years of it not happening in the county. And 27 children were screened. Some children showed up, but they did not participate. They were just there. They had their own agenda, and they just were not having any of it. So we were glad to get the 27 that we did. We did make some referrals for vision, hearing, and dental follow-up, and for developmental screenings. Had great community participation, and we've already set the date again for next spring. Widely held expectations are part of our school readiness goals. Widely held expectations are just generalizations about where children should be functioning at certain ages, meeting certain developmental milestones. And Teresa, if you go ahead and go to the next slide, we look at how they develop in social and emotional areas, physical, language, cognitive literacy, and mathematics. And then we take this data at least 3 times throughout the year, and we put it into what we call our teaching strategies goal system, and it tells us how much our children have grown throughout the year. So we check their growth from fall to winter, and then from fall to spring. So we have at least 3 checkpoints, and then we don't have anything for that middle part, but it just shows the continued growth. Teresa, if you'll just go ahead and forward a couple of, keep going right there. I just did a little summary to show you the growth. So the final outcomes for the 3-year-olds in social and emotional, 95% of our children met those widely held expectations at the end of the year. And most of the growth was in the 91 percentile, 91%. So we've grown quite a bit, and we made progress. The most growth was in literacy, 21.3 points in literacy, and then 20 points for the 3-year-olds. You see that on the 3-year-old side? Literacy is the second from the last. And we contribute that to the fact that we have lots of literacy-rich programs going on in Head Start. We have Friends of the Library, and people come in and read every week. We have Raising a Reader, and kids take home books in a little red bag every week. They get a library card at the end of the year, and they get to keep all of those books that they've read for the year. They are in English and in Spanish. And then we send home take-home activities with every one of our children every month to help them get ready for school. So this is how we contribute to their school readiness and to their growth. They may not be where kindergarten teachers want them to be whenever they walk through the door, but they certainly aren't where they were when they walked through Head Start's doors. And so that's success. Our 2016-17 goals, we're going to continue to focus on upgrading our technology needs implement our new data management system, which is Child Plus, prepare for a modified federal audit. We got lucky. New performance standards are coming out this year, and because new performance standards are coming out this year, the federal government has decided that they aren't doing all of those intense federal audits that they've done in previous years. You remember, Dr. Hefner, the one you walked in on, and it was the surprise. We were the unannounced 3 years ago.
I remember how surprised I was when I got a call that they were there.
Yes, and so I was visiting a new classroom we were just getting up and running the day after Thanksgiving break, I think it was. And I got a phone call that said, there's a lady here with a certified letter from the federal government, and she said she needs to see you. And immediately I started praying, and I knew what it was. And we did quite well. And Dr. Hefner met the team before I got there, and we did really well with that. But this year we won't have that intense, focused federal monitoring review. They're just doing a modified version because they're going to do more training on the new performance standards. We're going to focus on STEAM activities. That's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So we're going to focus on those things as well. Offer additional professional development opportunities. We have several things already lined up. The staff has already gotten a letter that's telling everything that we have planned for this year in the way of professional development. And we want to create some natural play environments. Have a grant that's due the end of this month that I'm working on. One thing that we're working on for 2017-18 is an extended day option. We were given the opportunity to ask to extend the day for 40 children. We weren't allowed to extend it for all 100, but 40. So we're going to see how many parents and how many grandparents and families need extended day care for their children. We'll extend the day until 2:30 at Wittenberg, Bethlehem, and Stony Point. Those are the places that we have Head Start classrooms. Each site will choose a discipline. This is part of something that I put into the grant. Each site or each teacher would choose a discipline that they would like to focus on for that additional hour and a half of the day. We're not using it just to nap. If a child needs to nap, that's fine, but we want to have some focus for that day. And we're going to focus on either the science, the technology, engineering, arts, or math. And each place can focus on something different. And at the end of 2017-18, we want to look at the data and see if those 40 children did better in those areas than the children that did not have that additional hour and a half in their day. I've submitted that grant, wrote it for $80,116, made a few tweaks to it per regional office, and they're reviewing that right now. So we expect to have funds awarded around July 1, 2017. That's all I have for you. Any questions for me?
Yes, very successful year.
Okay. I'm good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to recognize Ramey Robinson for our ACHS house project update.
Oh, gotcha. Nope. Oh. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll try to keep this short and simple. Give you a little update on the house project. A couple facts. Some of you may have came on the board since we started, may not be familiar. We're one of only a dozen school systems in the state still doing a live project. Some have transitioned to the tiny house. We used to do the playhouse and home builders, kind of that concept. Some of them pretty elaborate, some of them not so. We choose to do the traditional house at this point, which has more advantages because the tiny house, you're limited to the amount of kids you can get involved inside at one time and stuff. During the year, we probably have roughly 300 students. I based that on the number of seats roughly we fill in each class per semester. Roughly 300 students have potential to step foot on that job site during a year. And this is our 14th house. We do, just so you know, we include our carpentry, mason, and electrical. We have an intro class they have to take before they can take those classes. Drafting classes are incorporated into it, as well as our agriculture classes, which we'll be doing the landscaping. And also, since the house started, we've started interior design. We're going to incorporate them as we go to finishing up, letting them get involved in some of the final steps of the house also. What took place during the 2015-16 school year? Roughly, by my estimation, about 65% of the brickwork was completed during this previous school year. The electrical, plumbing, and HVAC work was all roughed in. Now, of course, we don't offer plumbing or HVAC at the school. Plumbing come in on a weekend. Now, we walk the kids through the process. I explain, the pressure test and inspection part with them. Our HVAC contractor actually wanted to be there on the day when the kids was there. He wanted to expose his trade to our kids since we don't offer it. Mm-hmm. That's kind of hand in hand that we like from the people we work with, because I'm going to get something in a minute about all of our trades, but we do sub the plumbing and HVAC out. We did use local contractors on both, and when we send out bids, I try to get as many locals involved as we can. Sometimes we do have to go outside the county, but personally, if we can get locals bidding these jobs and getting them, I think we need to keep our money right here home. Exterior walls was insulated. Believe it or not, all 3 of our trades classes teach weatherization. We actually more or less took that house for a week, and I went in there and used it as a classroom, explaining the steps of insulating. Harry, I know you've been in the trade, some of you others. The way they insulate and seal these houses off now compared to older houses is totally different. And so we used the house actually for a classroom for about a week there, talking about weatherization stuff. So during that process this year, we used it for that. And also all the sheetrock was installed. Where do we plan to be at the end of the school year? Hopefully drywall will be finished and painted, floors installed, trim completed, the cabinetry installed, and all the electrical, plumbing, HVAC completed. And our ag classes will be working towards getting the outdoor landscaping completed also. And it's a personal goal because I don't want to go any longer. I'm gonna get more gray hair, but I hope that at this time next year we've started the bid process. My goal spring this school year. I mean that's a personal goal. I feel like we do have several things we have to sub out finishing it. The cabinets and flooring, drywall, and painting. We do have to sub those because they don't directly go along with our curriculum. So that will speed the process. But it is a personal goal that I've set, to make sure that thing hopefully by spring, because I'm hoping and praying the housing market still seems to be as good as it is now. I'm sure Marty is too. But my hopes is that thing will be ready to where it can be bid off come spring. We have challenges. I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit of a headache at times. Some things we run into, I didn't have this up there, smart lunch and scheduling. We used to have our kids year round, like my 2 and 3, level 2 and level 3 kids. When I first started, I'm ready to start my 6th year. 5 years ago, I had my 2nd and 3rd level kids all year. So once I got them kids rolling, I didn't have to reinvent the wheel come January when I got a new batch of kids. We basically lose. Bottom line, we have to cut our projects off come December before Christmas break. And I hate to say this, but with the transition semester, and see, when we get a new batch, we have to run them through the safety again. Whether they was in their first semester, if they come into a new class, they go through the safety. We're looking in the middle of February, maybe even that last week of February, before we're ready to roll with a new batch of kids. That's been a major hurdle that I don't think any of us really seen that they used to didn't do this, that we have on this house. And that's probably been one of our biggest hurdles. Smart Lunch this year throwed us a new hurdle. It took an hour in there in the middle of the day where we used to basically, a lot of the classes would run 1st, 2nd, and 3rd block. It really affected our masonry classes because if they had mud mixed up, they couldn't get right back over there to it. They had to kind of plan. Turnover in our department, we've had 3 teachers. Actually, the house project coordinator, when we started this, is gone. I took it over. So teacher turnovers been a little bit of a challenge in our department. Masonry teacher retired. We got a new masonry teacher in midstream. finance department, and I want you to know I'm not complaining about Miss Mahaffey. They are great. I put that up there, and I told Miss Kent, I said, I don't want nobody to think I'm complaining, but if you've ever built a house or been on a project in Alexander County, you know how easy it is to deal with site lumber. You need something, you go to sites and you get it, or you call them and they got there the next morning or that day. The process of staying on my toes and the other ones letting me know ahead enough to write POs and stuff, it's a challenge if you've never done it. It's not like going to sites and saying, hey, I need a load of this, and it's there. That has been a challenge that we've also dealt with. And also, you know, no matter how big a headache it is, at the end of the day, our students, what they're achieving through this process is priceless. Our trades, if you don't follow this, we have a huge issue going on in our state, in our nation, with our skilled trades. Just sitting on session at summer conference, the electrical board, from 2003 to 2016, the average age of a licensed contractor in the state has gone up by 8 years. It's now, I think, 55, 56. Plumbing board was in the same session. Guy did not have things on paper like that, but he said they're in the same boat. HVAC people say they're in the same boat. And that's just licensed contractors, but it relates to their workers as well. And so what we're doing through this, now granted, this is just one aspect of the whole career, but you have a huge part in hopefully helping to address this concern on the state level. I actually emailed the state electrical guy today to get that fax because I wanted to make sure I was right on that. And they're fighting this every day. And this is not just a state thing, but this is also an Alexander County thing, because I can tell you, based on sitting in class with most of the electrical contractors each year, that age trend continues in our own county as well as it does the state. So through this house, you know, we have kids that typically go into these trades. We have some that go through our classes and go into 2-year, 4-year colleges. But this project, at the end of the day, the headaches are worth it. So any questions?
No, it sounds good.
Rainey, if we wanted to schedule a tour of the board to walk through the house, how would be the easiest way for us to do that?
Just let me know.
Okay.
We'll
Is
work
there
it
a specific time of day that's better for you?
out. The end of the day right now, I think I'm going to have the 4-period planning this semester. So that 1:30, 3 o'clock-ish. And I'll, if y'all, evenings are better for y'all, I can arrange that too.
Okay.
But yeah, just let me know ahead of time.
Yeah, I'd love to do it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See if anything. And now I'm going to recognize Dr. Hefner for our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to report that both projects at Taylorsville Elementary, the ceiling in the washroom and the part of the cafeteria roof that was being worked on, those projects have been completed. Cleanup has begun in the cafeteria, and I have to commend the school's custodians. They have really been great to offer with the help of that cleanup, and I appreciate that. I visited the Student Success Center today and did a walkthrough with the construction superintendent. He's planning to have everything completed by the end of the day on Thursday. I'm working to get the floors cleaned and waxed on Friday and Saturday. And Ms. Charles, I need for you to arrange to have furniture delivered on Tuesday of next week. Okay, all right, good deal. Thank you. Thank you, Tuesday. That's what he thought would be best. New teacher orientation is scheduled for Monday. That is August 15th. It's hard to believe, but that meeting will begin at 8 in the boardroom. All board members are invited, but Madam Chair, we'll want you to say a few words to our new hires to the system.
Okay.
8 o'clock on Monday morning. I also would ask all board members to mark your calendar for the afternoon of September 6th. Communities and schools of Wilkes and Alexander were recognized in Raleigh yesterday as a recipient of the AT&T Aspire grant. North Carolina received 2 of the 18 grants that were awarded nationwide. One was given to Communities and Schools of North Carolina and the other to our Communities and Schools organization. This means that CIS of Wilkes and Alexander will be awarded a total of $500,000 over the next 2 years to expand their programs and personnel. Glendora Yarborough has requested that we make a photograph and draft a press release about the grant that day. She would like for all board members to be a part of that, as well as the Communities and Schools Advisory Board. And again, we'll meet at the Student Success Center at 1:30 that afternoon. I received an email from Dr. Ken Phelps on July 19th, and he says it looks very unlikely that his team will be able to conduct our consolidation study during the month of August. I think at this point, due to staffing and different things happening at DPI, the best we can hope for is a September visit at this point. A date has been set for the quarterly meeting with the chair and vice chair of the Board of Commissioners. Our chair, vice chair, and myself will meet with their group at CVCC on Monday, September 19th at 6 p.m. I need to schedule a meeting with our budget committee made up of Chairwoman Brixey, Harry Shrum, and Marty Pennell. I've looked at the calendar, and if you would, please let me know if you are available to meet as a budget committee at 5:30 on Thursday, September 8th. And by the way, board members, on your electronic agenda, I have posted my report if you need to go back and refer to any of these dates. I received an update on Ron Turner this afternoon, and it was a good update. They were hoping to get him into a rehab facility this afternoon. He's making great progress, and they have asked that you just continue to keep Ron, Elizabeth, and their children in your prayers. In the 2016-17 state budget, merit pay for non-educators was included for state-paid employees not paid on the teacher's pay scale. The amount allocated to our school system totals $73,096. This merit pay cannot be across the board and given to any one group of employees. It has to be that merit pay. I'm going to be attending a meeting with regional superintendents tomorrow to seek their input as far as what criteria they will use to distribute that money in their school systems. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, please let me know by the week's end. I feel the group most appropriate for consideration of this extra funding should be the 10-month non-certified employees who have been cut 12 days of pay due to the budget constraints. On Thursday, August 4th, that was last week, the North Carolina State Board of Education changed the policy regarding interscholastic athletics. The new policy changes the grade level at which students may participate in interscholastic competition. It had originally been only grades 7 through 12 could compete in school athletics, but that has now changed to grades 6 through 12. As part of the change, 6th grade students may participate in all interscholastic sports with the exception of football. They are still excluded from football. I have spoken to both middle school principals and 3 superintendents in surrounding systems, and the consensus seems to be that due to the late notice of this decision, we will forego making a change this school year and use the upcoming year to research how this would positively or negatively affect our students and teams. We will make a decision for the 17-18 school year in the spring of 2017. And then the last thing on my report, opening session is scheduled for Tuesday, August 23rd, beginning at 8:30 in the auditorium. Please make sure that you make plans to attend. We're in for a treat. We're changing it up just a little bit this year. Any questions?
When do you think that DPI will schedule? Or are you just waiting for them to make it?
We're right now at their mercy when they can get here, but his email on the 19th of July said August is not looking good.
Okay.
So, all right. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize Sharon Mahaffey we've got some unfinished business, which is a third reading of several policy revisions.
There are 7 policy revisions up for third reading tonight. Parent involvement, Title I parent involvement, registered sex offenders, tobacco-free schools, weapons and explosives prohibited, safety and student transportation services, and drivers. And I ask that we approve these policies.
Board members, we've had a chance to look over these proposed policy changes for couple months now. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Mahaffey? Do I have a motion to approve those changes and those policies as presented on the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those passed unanimously. And we're moving to new business, which is another proposed policy revision. Mr. Happy.
Okay. In this year's General Assembly, Session Law 2016-58 revised General Statute 115C 521 to require local boards to adopt a policy governing change orders to contracts for construction or repair work. The policy must address the process by which the contractor submits a change order, who has the authority to approve a change order, the process by which a proposed change order is submitted to the board if required for approval, the process by which the board is notified of other change orders that do not require board approval. The policy must be in effect by October 1st, 2016, and will affect any construction projects entered into after that date. The revisions to Policy 9030, Facilities Constructions, covers these legislative changes. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I haven't had a chance to confer with Mr. Shrum on this because this is one area that I think I'd like to talk with him about, but I was curious as to the blank figure.
Okay.
Is that a cap that we have to determine where it said,
Well,
you know, the amount?
In the actual draft policy, there was a figure in there, $30,000. We can choose the figure. And the reason that I put the $30,000 was that is the limit at which you have to bid. So anything under $30,000 does not require a bid. So it seemed to me that it would carry over, but if that's not a figure, that we can talk about that.
Okay.
If you don't like that figure.
So we'll need to take action on this at our September meeting.
Yes.
For it to be in effect by October 1st.
Yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Mahaffey? Thank you. Mr. McCurdy. We have a proposed charter bus companies list for 2016-17 that we need to approve.
Good evening.
You're up. Good evening.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Hefner. I'm here tonight to recommend for your approval the list of charter bus companies for Alexander County Schools for the upcoming 2016-17 year. Mr. Greg Smith is president of Eastern Transportation Consultants Incorporated, which was formed in August of 2012. We have been using his company since the 13-14 school year for our inspection of motor coach companies. This will be our fourth year using Eastern Consultants. He conducts motor coach site visits and checks vehicle maintenance records, drivers' MVR for violations and validations, drivers' up-to-date medical cards, complete logbooks, etc. Mr. Smith visually inspects each motor coach. He is a graduate of Eastern Carolina University and North Carolina State University. He has 22 years experience with North Carolina State Highway Patrol when he retired in May of 2007, where he served as First Sergeant, Vehicle Enforcement Officer 1, and Vehicle Officer Enforcement 2. It's for your approval.
Okay, board, these bus companies have been pre-qualified by this group that we've used for several years. Does anybody have any questions or concerns for Mr. McCurdy?
This is the same group of we used last year.
All right, I need a motion to approve as presented the proposed charter bus companies for 2016-17.
Move to approve.
Second. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Chad Maynor, this is interesting to me. Presentation on the Iowa assessment request.
All
Dr. Hefner, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, all those in attendance, as you alluded to, this is sort of a unique scenario, not only to you, but to me as a principal. So I will get it started. Several weeks ago, I received, and I'll show you the envelope, this envelope in the mail from, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, addressed the principal of West Alexander Middle School. Not unlike so many letters I receive in the mail on any given day. But for whatever reason, I chose to open this letter, and as the more I read, the more I became intrigued by the contents. It was postmarked July 15th. I did not write the exact day I received the letter, but roughly middle to late July, addressed to the principal, inviting West Alexander Middle School to participate in a normative update of the Iowa assessment. And the Iowa assessment was developed by the University of Iowa and is administered nationally. It offers a testing window of October 11th through November 18th, and the school can be as flexible as they need to be as long as the tests are completed during that window. The Iowa assessment measures students' achievement across a variety of continuums, including the Common Core standards. Schools are projected to be provided with a list of student scores and possible class summary reports by the end of the school year. They referenced it, felt pretty confident we'd receive the student reports, the class summary. They were tentative when I spoke or emailed the representative concerning that matter. Subtests are available in both math and language arts, and there's a potential that social studies and science could be tested as well. Protested testing time for grades 6 through 8 is 5 hours. That's on the request letter. So schools who test students or invited or accepted to participate cannot have two options. The first being a cash award per student of $50. The second one is the HMH assessment catalog credit per student of $100 per student. Oftentimes, those catalog items tend to be priced maybe a little heavily at times. So I'm leaning, and I'll talk to you later, towards the $50 cash allotment. Participating schools have to complete a registration form, agreement to participate in questionnaire, and I believe you have all those in your board documents. A list of participating schools will be published by the HMH Research Guide. Participating in the study will expose our students to new test items and will assess them to improve the quality of their measurement tools. Individual students' names will not be published to ensure the confidentiality of those students participating. And as I've referenced earlier, a list of individual student scores and possibly a class summary will be provided by the end of the 2016-2017 school year. How would it be administered? The test is broken down into subtests. My plan is somewhere in the middle of October, look at the best window that meets the needs of our students and staff, and determine that, communicate that with HMH. Students will attend all their classes each day. My thoughts are, depending on if it would be 3 days, 2-hour test, depending on how many tests we get, is to operate a 2-hour delay schedule at the conclusion of testing, so the students would still attend all their core classes that day, as well as their exploratory classes. So to minimize disruption to the student day and to allow them to attend all the classes that they can on the days that are tested. Only regular education students would be tested as part of this pilot study. No EC students or students with 504, meaning if they have specialized accommodations, would be tested as part of this study. Approximately 400 students, and this is just an approximate value, would be eligible to participate. Schedules will be adjusted accordingly, provide either enrichment or intervention opportunities for those students who would not qualify, the EC students, the 504 students who wouldn't be able to participate. The plan, as I mentioned earlier, would be to select the cash per student award. And based on tentative projections, West Alexander Middle School at 400 students at $50 per student could earn approximately $20,000 for participating in the HMH Iowa Assessment Research Study. How we use this? These are Chad Maynard talking out loud here. I didn't know if it'd be approved, so I haven't gone before the leadership team to ask their suggestions. I'm sure they may have suggestions that are far better than what I have. For example, we could remove the carpet and replace tile in the course room in our media center, purchase iPad Air 2s at 16 gigabytes for 35 teachers, purchase additional classroom furniture to update as we transition maybe away from some of the desks to more of a classroom with more tables as we transition to the one-to-one. Install a fence around the exterior of the football field, which would help particularly during the winter when we have visitors that like to sled during the snow, but unfortunately they tend to bring their four-wheel drives and other vehicles on the field, which creates issues for Mr. Robertson's maintenance department when they hit our sprinkler heads and create ruts in our field. So those are a couple items that popped to my mind that we might be able to use this money for if approved. As I mentioned, the leadership team, they may have far better ideas than those I've shared with you. And as I mentioned also, it's a unique request. Principals don't usually ask for more testing of students, and principals don't usually tell you they're going to get paid to test their students. So this is unique on a number of levels. Any comments or questions, anything I might answer?
I think it's a great recognition. It's obvious that your school was not selected randomly. Did a little research. And this company, if you're familiar with the book Curious George, that's one of their products, but they serve 50 million students in 150 countries. Wow. So it's a major corporation that has provided learning textbooks and curriculum for decades. I bet Sally remembers that name well.
Many textbooks.
So I see it as a great honor for, obviously, not every administrator got that piece of mail. So.
No, I mean, they threw it away, but I didn't. I'm glad I did. Thank you, Lord.
Dr. Maynard,
Yes, ma'am.
I have participated back in the day in one of these norming procedures with my class.
Yes.
Ours was for the California Achievement Test. I don't even know if you've ever heard of that, but Alexander County used to give that. And also we used to give the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, which I think is a predecessor of this.
Okay.
If I'm correct in that. I didn't find it to be a real disruption to the school day. We did it, I think, like over a course of 3 days. We didn't get any money, or I never knew about any money. Maybe the school did, but I just really did not find it to be a disruption.
Do you see it benefiting the students, or how we use the test data when it comes back?
Well, I think it'll help our teachers as they, see what areas we might need to improve upon and what areas we might be doing well in comparison to others across the nation. I see is probably the biggest area. So hopefully the goal summary reports as well. I think depending on the grade level that the students are testing in, 6th grade, we could certainly use that information as I look to determine where those students might need to be placed next year as far as what level, as far as their classroom levels, intervention enrichment opportunities. So I could see it helping me as well as being another piece of data to use when I look at placing students, not solely on teacher recommendations, EOG scores, classroom grades. So it'd be another tool for me to maybe better provide the services to help those students be successful. 8th grade, I can certainly share that information with the high school once I have that as far as how those students perform.
And I think it'll be a good comparison. This is a national test, comparing it with our North Carolina assessments we do. So it'll give us some more data for the students.
I'm also pleased to report when I checked as far as if we would need proctors. As you know, proctors can be difficult to come upon as far as when EOGs are here. They said, unless you don't feel comfortable with the number of students that are being tested in the classroom, they don't recommend or require that we have proctors. So that's one less hurdle, I guess, that we'd have to step through during that week. So I certainly thought it was a great opportunity. I shared it with Ms. Meeks when I received it and asked her to lay eyes on it to see if maybe I'm imagining something, or what was going on here. And she said, no, I think you're right. And she suggested I share with Dr. Hebner, which I in turn did, and I appreciate her allowing me to share it with you. And if your approval meets your approval, potentially exploring this and meeting with my leadership and see how we might use the money that we'd receive to best meet the needs of our school and students.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Ryan asked how it would benefit the students. I mean, I personally find taking practice exams very helpful for my own preparation.
Mm-hmm.
If there's somebody, a student or a parent of a student that objects, is there going to be an opt-out on this?
I certainly don't see that there'd be any reason that we couldn't opt out of that option if a parent
Yeah,
so
for a
chooses.
particular student, not opting out as a system.
Yeah,
but
if there's a
somebody
particular student that, my child doesn't want to test for whatever reason, I certainly don't see any reason we couldn't pull that student and place him in either an intervention or enrichment opportunity with the other students, because there'll be approximately 100 students that won't participate in the test who are either receiving EC services or accommodations through a 504 plan. That's rough projections. That's not exact totals. I want to get enough information to share with you the basic facts, so you'd have those to make a decision. But
Dr. Maynard, I thought of one other question
Yes,
today. If a student is absent, will there be makeup tests for that student, or do they just miss it that day and take it the days that they are in school?
I would assume there would be some type of makeup testing for those students who participated, and we could work around that as far as if it were after the 5-day window or week window, whatever we worked with. We could certainly work with those students and test as far as to be the least disruptive as possible. I would assume they would be makeup for those students. Now, that's merely an assumption. I haven't asked that yet. Yes.
You may want to have an opt-in too.
Okay.
Instead of just, I don't think legally you could just exclude DC. You know what I mean? I think that would be, you would have to offer the same opportunity.
Okay.
You could have an opt-in, like
Okay.
you could send a letter to your children that are identified and just kind of explaining, explaining the length of the test and stuff. You could have an opt-in.
Okay.
And I'm assuming they were originally doing any kind of testing accommodations.
No, we will not be
You'll
finding any
do
kind
whole
of-
group testing.
Yeah.
I think if you put that in your letter to parents, they'll better understand that,
Why their child's not being elected.
well, don't word it that way, but give them the option to say, no, I don't want my child tested with the whole group. They normally are tested in a separate setting, that sort of thing. So if you put those details in the opt-in letter, I think that would help you.
Anything else? This requires board approval.
Move to approve the request.
I think that's one thing that needs to be made clear to the students, is that if they don't get the proceeds.
Yeah, you're not making $50.
They do in a sense, but they
I
won't.
mean, it's a way
We will
that
use it to your
they benefit.
benefit.
They will benefit academically and
Mhm.
through test preparation and that kind of thing, but they're doing it to benefit their school. That's why my question for the opt-out, and that's a very good question from Dr. Helton about the opt-in. So,
And I certainly appreciate any wisdom anyone might have to assist me in this.
well,
Like I
it
say, this
is
is
a
rarity.
unique request.
Yeah, it is very unique, yeah.
Well, I think given the amount of investment, a really humdinger of a pizza party.
Yeah.
Some kind of
reward
for
thing.
5
Maybe some
hours.
inflatables like we do at Bulldog Blast or something like that. We can certainly arrange something like that to social time does amazing things at the middle school if you get a little social time.
Or anyway,
Yeah.
Well, that would be probably fair.
I agree.
Okay, board members, you've heard the request from Dr. Maynard. Do we have a motion to approve proceeding with this fundraiser?
All right.
Mr. Odom, did you made the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And Mr. Shrum made the second? Daniel, thank you. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor of proceeding, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
All right. Thank y'all so much.
that's it, right? All right, now I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11 sub A sub 6.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're gonna go into closed session.